Guys and girls, this is Wager Detective here, May 28th, 2026, and do we have a fun game here that I'm going to cap for you guys, and Twins versus the White Sox. Before we get into that, be sure to follow Wager Detective on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Set alerts on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube. All and every bit of support helps as Wager Detective continues his journey on just what he loves to do and what his passion is. And this Wager Detective report is really just leading me to the cash out window pretty consistently. I like very consistently. So tune into the Wager Detective report. Will be posted daily on Twitter and YouTube. Follow me on Instagram as well. And let's get into this cap. I love all my fans out there. Just want to let you guys know. So let's get into this cap. Okay, so we got the Twins this year, 27-28 on the year. One game below 500, but they're playing 4 games better than 500 in their last 10, where they're 7-3 in their last 10. They're 5-7 in one-run games, and they are 8-5 versus the American League Central. Now, in their last 7-day games at the White Sox, they are 4-3. 4 over, 3 under. They're scoring 3.85 runs per game to 4.42. So last 7 road day games at the White Sox, they are 4-3, 4 over, 3 under, scoring 3.85 runs per game to 4.42. Comes out to 8.27 runs per game average. And they've scored 5+ 3 times in those 7-day games at the White Sox. And the White Sox have scored 5+ 3 times. So both these teams have scored 5+ against each other in their last 7-day game meetings in Chicago. And in that split, the Twins have been shut out twice. So they're still holding a 3.85 runs per game average over their last 7-day games at the White Sox, but have been shut out twice. So something to keep in mind there. And they've scored 5+ 3 times in their last 7-day games at the White Sox. Now, the Twins, they're 7-7 in road day games this year, 6 over, 8 under. They're scoring 4 runs a game to 3.71 for their opponent. Comes out to 7.71 runs per game average. And also, I want to let you know that the Twins are plus 120 today, and the White Sox are minus 142. The total's coming in at 7.5. You look at RotoWire, and it's saying that it's different than what FanDuel has is who's going to be the starting pitcher. But I'm going to cut out the guesswork now for you. The line kind of dictates that it's going to be Martin, even though Fetty is up there on FanDuel. But on RotoWire, what we're seeing here, it's saying Dean Martin. Here's the deal, guys. The White Sox know that the Twins are on their heels. The White Sox are going to the Tigers next. They don't need Martin to start versus the Tigers that are playing really bad. When they open up that series with them tomorrow. They need this game against their divisional rival that is playing hot in their last 10, and the White Sox want to keep up with them. So, in my opinion, I can't see it not being Martin. I mean, he'll be on 5 days rest where, as we get into this cap further, he's pitching fantastic. He's in a rhythm. I think it will most certainly be Dean Martin. I don't know why FanDuel is putting up Eric Fetty as the starter, but I got to believe the White Sox need this game more than playing the Tigers, who they'll open up a series with tomorrow. So that's just a little bit of a sharp angle for you if you're confused about who's going to be starting this game. So, again, Twins 7-7 in road day games this year. 6 over, 8 under. They're scoring 4 runs a game to 3.71. They've scored 2 or less 5 times in their 14 road day games this year, and they've scored 4+ 9 times. So it's kind of like there's no in between there. So in the 14 road day games for the Twins this year, they scored 2 or less 5 times, and they scored 4+ 9 times. Now their opponents in this split have scored 2 or less 5 times and scored 4+ 7 times. So no in between what they're going to score and what they're going to give up in their road day games. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be 4 or more. It's going to be 2 or less. Okay, so in their last 9 games overall, the Twins playing hot baseball, 6-3 in their last 9, 5 over, 4 under. Those wins have come against Houston, Boston, and the White Sox. In their last 9, the Twins have scored 4.11 runs per game to 4.44 for their opponents. In their last 9 games overall, the Twins have scored 4+ 6 times. Their opponents have scored 4+ 3 times. So with that 6-3 last 9 overall for the Twins, they're scoring runs a little bit more than what their opponents are. And obviously that's going to lead to a 6-3 last 9 record. So the Twins versus the American League Central, they're 8-5 this year. They swept the Tigers in a 4-game series this year to bolster that record against the Central. In those 13 games versus the American League Central, 7 over and 6 under. They're scoring 4.31 runs per game to 4.69 for their Central Division counterparts. So in the last 13, in the 13 games versus the American League Central, they have scored 5+ 6 times. Their opponents in the American League Central have scored 5+ 4 times. Against the American League Central, when they don't score, they're scoring 2 or less 4 times in that split, and their opponents in the American League Central are scoring 2 runs less 4 times as well. So against the American League Central, 8-5, looking pretty good, and scored 5+ 6 times in those 13 games. So almost 50% of the time they're scoring 5+ when they play the American League Central. They only scored 2 yesterday, and they gave up 15. So I'm sure they got revenge on their mind here. Now, the situational angle of this cap, every Wager Detective report has one. It's the situational angle. And for this game, it's going to be the last game of Road Series before the next Road Series with no rest before the All-Star break. So, Twins, it's the last game of Road Series. They're going to their next Road Series. They'll have no rest in between. And they are 1-3 this year in that split. And between this year and last year in that split, overall they're 2-6. So this year they're 1-3. All 4 games went over in that split. They won 6-5, lost 5-7, lost 8-10, and lost 6-8. So all 4 games in that split, when the Twins are going from city to city with no rest on the horizon, going into the next city, that last game of that series, they are 1-3 this year. In that split, scoring 6.25 runs per game to 7.5 for their opponent. That's a combined 13.75 runs per game average. If you look at the last 8 dating back to last year, they are 2-6. If you combine this year and last year, they are 2-6 in their last 8 in that split. And they're scoring 4.37 runs per game to 5.63 for their opponent, coming out to 9.99. The thing I'm noticing here, even with Martin on the mound, he's not really giving up runs. I mean, there's always the threat of long innings, pitch counts getting high, guys walking. Listen, I know Dean Martin's pitched good, and for all intents and purposes, I do believe that the White Sox, I don't want to spoil alert, but I'm leaning towards the White Sox in this, although it's really a sticky cap, if you ask me. I don't think it's going to be a blowout like it was yesterday. I think the Twins come out and play today. So let's get into Taj Bradley. He's going to be on the mound today. The Twins are 2-3 in the last 5 Taj Bradley starts. They've won 2 straight in the last 5 to push it to 2-3. They were 0-3 before that, and they've won the last 2. In the last 5 Bradley starts, 4 over and 1 under. He's pitched 30 1/3, 23 hits, 13 earned runs, 11 walks, and 5 home runs. That's coming out to a 3.86 ERA, a 1.12 WHIP, and a 1.49 home runs per 9 over his last 5. Taj Bradley, the Twins are 3-1 when he pitches on 4 days rest, 2 over and 2 under. 24 1/3, 20 hits, 4 earned runs, a home run, 7 walks, and 27 Ks. That comes out to a 1.48 WHIP and a 1.48 ERA and a 1.11 WHIP. So, I mean, you're seeing all these numbers over, but then you're looking at, that, and then you say to yourself, oh, he's, but in his last 5, it has been 4 over and 1 under, okay? But on 4 days rest, Twins 3-1, 2 over, 2 under, and he's got a 1.48 ERA and a 1.11 WHIP. So he's pitching good on that 4 days rest, which is what he'll be on today. So, when you factor that in, on the year too, by the way, Bradley, 52 innings pitched, only given up 5 home runs. He's got a 2.77 ERA, 0.98 WHIP, and he's given up 42 hits, 19 walks, 16 earned runs. So he's having a great year. He's having actually a fantastic year. I mean, from where he was, where he was at. But you look at those numbers and you say to yourself, well, that's pretty good. Now, Taj Bradley, okay. Against the White Sox, he is 0-3 in his career. His teams are 0-3, rather. His record might not reflect that, but when Taj Bradley starts first, the White Sox, he is 0-3. The scores have been 9-11, 0-8, and 8-11. They're all over that 7.5 that's set today. And in those games, in those 3 games, 11.2 innings pitched, 15 earned runs, 21 hits, 5 walks and 2 home runs. It comes out to 11.57 ERA, a 2.24 WHIP, and a 1.55 home runs per 9, which is pretty crazy. And all these games were last year. So I think when you have that, I think there's regression to the mean, especially with the way Bradley's been pitching this year and the way he's been pitching in his last 5. I mean, last 5, 3.86 ERA, a 1.12 WHIP, but he's got to not find the barrel of the bat of his opponents because he's given up 1.49 home runs per 9. But again, when you look at it 4 days rest this year, the Twins are 3-1, and he's got a 1.48 ERA and a 1.11 WHIP. And overall in the year, he's got a 2.77 ERA and 0.98 WHIP. So when you look at all that and you factor that all in, I think Taj Bradley the line is reflecting, coupled with the fact that Dean Martin's going to be on the mound, that this game could be an under, right? I would check the bullpens. I would see what kind of fatigue we're looking at. I don't think that the Twins are necessarily care if they have to use their bullpen, right? Because they're going to be going against the White Sox are going to be going against the Tigers next. I don't think they're worried about playing the Tigers. I think they could get by, probably sweep them while they're at it. So something to keep in mind with all we got going on. So the Twins side of the cap, 7-3 in their last 10. Some of the bright spots, 6-3 in their last 9. They're 4-3 last 7 road day games at the White Sox. They've scored 5+ 3 times in those last 7 road day games at the White Sox. They're not looking good in the last game of a series before the next series with no rest in between. They're 1-3 this year. All the games have gone over. Okay? And they are 8-5 against the American League Central. I mean, they're scoring 4.31 runs a game there, and their last 9 overall, they're scoring 4.11. Are you going to get that today against this White Sox and Dean Martin? Let's take a talk about the Chicago White Sox. They're 27-27 on the year. They're 5-5 in their last 10. 15-11 in home games this year, and they're 10-6 in one-run games. So, as we said, the Twins are 5-7 in one-run games, and you look at the White Sox, they're 10-6 in one-run games. Gets sticky. It is in Chicago. They're going to get the last at bat, and it's a sign for the White Sox there. And they are 7-3 versus the. Oh, okay, no, forget about that. I didn't get their stats on what they did against the American League West this year, but 10-6 in one-run games for the White Sox, 15-11 at home, and 5-5 in their last 10. So, you look at the Twins are playing a little bit better, and you wouldn't think that way from the way that the White Sox opened up a can of smack on these guys yesterday, 15-2. But again, when you see that, public's going to see Dean Martin on the mound. They just did that to him. Dean Martin, is he due for some regression? We haven't seen it yet. We haven't seen it. And when you get into this cap, you're going to be like, maybe we might not. Let's take a look at the White Sox. The White Sox, 7-5 in home day games this year. 6 over and 6 under in those games. They've scored 3.58 runs per game average to 3.41 for their opponents. Comes out to an even 7 runs per game average in the White Sox home day games this year. So that's a call for the under right there. The way Bradley's been pitching, even though he hasn't had a good career, his teams are 0-3 when he starts versus the White Sox, and all those 3 games have gone over. You got to look at what he's doing right now, the current moment, the recent form. Okay, so The White Sox, last 9 overall, they are 4-5. They've scored 5 runs a game to 4.66 for their opponent, comes out to 9.66 runs per game average in the last 9 White Sox games. So it's a tug and pull here between the over and the under, something to think about there. Now, the White Sox versus the American League, or no, why do I say the American League? Oh, yeah. So the White Sox, they're 7-3 versus the American League Central this year. 6 over, 4 under. And in those 10 games, they've been shut out twice, but they're scoring 4.7 runs per game over their 10 games versus the American League Central this year. Their opponents scoring 2.9 runs per game. Okay? That's coming out to 6.6, guys. Or 7.6. 4.7 for the White Sox to 2.9 for their Central Division counterparts in 10 games versus the Central Division this year. In those 10 games versus the Central Division, the White Sox have scored 5+ 5 times, and they scored 2 or less 3 times. So more times than not, they're scoring, and they're scoring 5 runs or better 5 times in 10 games versus the AL Central this year. Their opponents are scoring 5+ 4 times when they play them in those 10 games versus the Central this year, but their opponents have scored 2 or less 5 times. So it's a feast or famine. It's either you're going to score or you're not. And that seems to be the theme with the Twins, in some of their games, especially against the Central, where they've scored 2 or less 4 times, but they've scored 5+ 6 times in 13 games. So it's kind of like a cat and mouse game in this cap so far. Now, if we look at the situational angle for the White Sox, it's going to be the last game of a home series before a new series begins with no rest in between. In that situation, they are 4-2 in their last 6, 2 over, 4 under, scoring 3.83 runs per game to 1.5 for their opponents. So in that last game of a series, before they're getting ready to open up another home series with no rest, they lock down their opponents. Last 6 games, they're 4-2, and they're only letting their opponents score 1.5 runs per game. Their opponents have scored 2 or less 5 times in that 6-game split. So this is further reason why I think the White Sox are the play. I know the confusion is being out there on who's going to start, whether it's Fetty or Martin. I got to believe that it's got to be Dean Martin based on the fact that you want to pitch him against the Twins rather than have him face the Tigers. You don't need him against the Tigers, who are playing bad. You need him in this game against a team that's right on your heels playing good baseball. You want to close this series off strong, so I got to believe it's going to be Dean Martin. And if it is, Dean Martin, 9-1. The White Sox are 9-1 in Dean Martin starts this year, 4 over, 6 under. Last 2 have gone over. So 9-1 the White Sox are when Dean Martin starts, 4 over, 6 under. The last 2 have gone over. Let's bring me back to that under, right? We got 6 under in the 10 games that he started, and the last 2 went over that Martin played in. And we had a high-scoring game yesterday, right? You had 17 on the board yesterday. Public is going to see that subliminally and automatically just take the over. They don't care who's on the mound. And most people don't even know who Dean Martin is. I call him Dean Martin. That's not his name. It's Davis Martin, but we call him Dean Martin because this kid is just playing like a movie star right now, and the way he's pitching, he's looking fantastic. Now, in the last 5 games, the White Sox are 5-0 when Dean Martin starts. 30 1/3 innings pitched, 26 hits, 7 earned runs, a home run, and 5 walks. That comes out to a 2.08 ERA and a 1.02 WHIP. I mean, this guy is just missing bats. Guys aren't getting on base. They're finding it tough, and he looks fantastic. Wager Detective cashed with him when they played the Cubs in that crosstown rivalry game earlier this year, not too long ago, and the Cubs came out and just absolutely ransacked the Cubs pitcher. I think it was Tylon in that game. So if we look at that, and then we look at what Dean Martin has done on 5 days rest, the White Sox are 6-0 when Dean Davis Martin starts on 5 days rest. 6-0. 37 innings pitched, 29 hits, 7 earned runs, a home run, and 7 walks, coming out to a 1.70 ERA and an 0.97 WHIP. And guys, these wins have not come against shabby teams. Come against the Giants, the Cubs, Seattle, Who else we got in here? No, I can't read the handwriting there. Arizona, the Athletics, Toronto, and Miami. I mean, they're beating teams, guys. So on the year overall, he's got 61 and 2/3, 51 hits, 14 earned runs, only 3 home runs and 12 walks, a 1.02 whip, and he struck out 66 batters in 61 and 2/3, guys. Guys missing bats. Now, the Twins are no slouch. I think the Twins, low-key, are one of those lineups that they got guys. Now, if we look at the leaders, batting average for the Twins, the batting average leader is Austin Martin, batting .284. He's only 1-9 in the series so far. Could he wake up here? Who knows? Meredith is the batting average leader for the White Sox, batting .273. He's 6 for 14 in the series with a home run. So he's batting high. Your 2 top batting average guys is going to the White Sox there. Now, home runs. You got Murakami with 20, right? He's only batting .240, but he's got 42 walks to go around with 20 home runs and 40 RBIs. Now, not far behind the home run leader for the Twins is Buxton. He's got 17 home runs. He's batting 19 points higher, .259, than Murakami. He's got only 27 RBIs to Murakami's 42, and he's struck out quite a number of times as well. RBI leaders, Brooks Lee and Josh Bell for the Twins, and then for the White Sox, Murakami coming in at number 7 in Major League Baseball with 40 of them. You got Montgomery with 33 and Vargas with 31. They got 3 guys. They got 30-plus RBIs, and we're not even that close to the All-Star break. We could very well have 3 guys that have over 100 RBIs on the same team. Look out for the White Sox. Okay, and then stolen bases, pretty even, 42 to 40. The White Sox got 42, and the Twins got 40. Guys, if I'm gonna, and this cap's getting a little long here. Ooh, this is a long one, but this is one of my better ones, guys. Be on the lookout for more of these. As far as the game, how are we going to look at this? Martin's going to be on the mound. Both pitchers are pitching well recently. Martin's pitching considerably better, marginally better, by quite a bit, in his games this year. Is there regression to the mean? Do the Twins wake up here? Guys, if I was to look at this, I know it's going to sound crazy. I mean, am I going to go against a guy that, if he starts, I got to think the White Sox are going to win, man. I got to believe that they're going to win. And listen, can these guys pitch into the late innings? Because you don't know what's going to happen once you get to the bullpens, right? Late in the game. You don't know if a home run's going to go out. Both teams have guys that can hit the ball over the fence. I mean, if I was to look at this game, I would lean under based on the fact that they scored 17 yesterday. And I think Taj Bradley can pitch good through the first 5. I don't know what's going to happen after that. But that's going to be Wager Detective's call. He's going to call the White Sox. I can't go against that. I cannot, with a sharp mind, do that and be comfortable doing that. And like I said, you look at what the White Sox have done to Taj Bradley. I mean, like I said, man, they get to him. They get to this guy, and it should be interesting, an interesting game. So that's Wager Detective's call. He's going to call the White Sox to get the win here and the game to go under 7.5. This is Wager Detective, May 28th, 2026, live from the Tropicana. Be sure to follow Wager Detective on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. And remember, guys, more than anything else, Wager Detective loves all his fans. I'll talk to you soon.